Welcome to In the Black, the podcast that shines a light on resilience, transformation, and the power of reinvention. I'm Aracelli, and each week, my co host Shannon and I sit down with incredible women who have faced some of life's hardest challenges, from personal setbacks to societal obstacles, and have emerged on the other side stronger, driven, and ready to make a difference.
On In the Black, we celebrate these stories of strength and success, diving deep into the journeys of women who turned pain into purpose, adversity into action, and now dedicate themselves to making the world a better place in their own way. They're here to inspire, share hard-earned wisdom, and remind us all, no matter how dark things may seem, life is cyclical and dawn is coming. So whether you're looking for inspiration, motivation, or just a reminder that change is always possible, this is the podcast for you. Welcome to In the Black.
Welcome to our 30th episode. Today we are coming to you with 15 questions or 30 lessons that we have learned. So 15, we're going to try to give you 15 each from each of us. I hope you have your 15, Shannon. I worked on mine a while ago and I came up with 10. So I'm 15 or 5 short, but I think between me and you, we can make it work. We can just.
I think I'll be fine.
Do you want to go first or do I go first?
You can go first.
Okay. So the first one lesson that I learned was creating marketing flyer to send to guests so that they can promote. So this one actually came from Dr. Zinnia. Dr. Zinnia is episode 28. So she, after, I think it was before our conversation that she had mentioned, she had asked something about if we're going to have some sort of promotional something. And I had to pick her brain out. I just asked her what she meant by that. And she gave me kind of a breakdown example. And I'm pretty sure other guests asked, oh, that's a hard word, asked around the same line as she did. But in my head, I couldn't really picture it or understand creatively what that would look like. So huge thanks to Dr. Xenia for that. I quickly just kind of went to town on it that day and then just had it out to every single person that was scheduled to be on our podcast since then. So shout out to Dr. Xenia for that little insight. It's actually common sense now, but my little brain couldn't, I guess, create that along with everything else that we've been doing. So, all right, Shannon, your turn.
So I am thinking back to our very first episode with Janice. And I remember thinking when we were discussing how it's pretty wild how all of our experiences mirror each other. And so I think one of the things that are we talking about stuff that we've learned for the podcast particularly or just in general?
I think everything. Goes. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Just making sure because I don't really do a lot of the like hands-on stuff with the podcast. So I was like, I don't know anything about that. I've logged in 2 times, I think, to the StreamYard. So
yeah, I think everything offers growth though. So, like, even listening to podcasts. So, we I'm sure we've had between both of us 30 things learned. So,
yeah, I'm sure we have. But I remember thinking in that very first podcast that it's amazing that no one is actually alone in their experience. And I think that's one of the things that people, me in particular, struggle with is thinking, oh, well, this is my situation. And it was kind of funny because the last episode that we recorded with Sylvia kind of brought that around because with Janice, it was just talking about domestic violence. And I tend to feel like I'm very alone in having the brain injury and my life kind of turning upside down and executive function issues and all of that. And then talking with Sylvia this last time and seeing how she has dealt with that and overcome that, and was really powerful for me because it was just like, you're not alone. No matter what your situation is, there's someone who is going through something similar to you. And I think that was a really big thing that I've taken from almost every episode.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something that again I feel inspired us to put this passion project together. You coming from, painting the portraits of these women and portraying their stories, to me finding, that wall of how can I say it over and over again. You are not what is happening around you and to you, because life is always happening. It's why is it happening for me? So even though it may be difficult, how can I use this as a learning experience, or how can I just, you know, maybe make something great out of it? And so, having these women share their stories, and again, sharing time and time and time again how they're doing it. They're not being stuck. They're not being like, oh, me this and me that. They're like, no, let's learn something from this and let's do something about it. And let's just be positive in the worst of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that you can do. So, number two for me was being okay with not finishing an edit in the time allotted. So, life is always happening. Balancing two businesses now. Um, I, with everything that comes at you that's new, it's a challenge. Learning how to do all the things, when you've never done it before, that was a challenge in itself. And then not just feeling like I was drowning and not being able to successfully balance my Diverge Wellness, my training business, with the podcast business, but then allowing myself to just give myself grace, and just taking it one day at a time, writing down tasks. This day I am, training this client at this time. I have an hour after that client to do, 10 minutes or 15 minutes of editing, just blocking myself out times so that I can stay consistent, obviously show up on time, be there in full capacity for my clients, be there in full capacity for my editing, for the podcast, just marking off tasks and knowing that, this day, every single task on this list was finished. I did okay. I showed up and I did a good job. And then the next day would just lead into those tasks so that they're bite sized pieces. So I wouldn't have this overwhelming feeling. Now we're in episode 30th of, drowning in this beautiful, hopefully a beautiful creation that we've created, so that we can continue to show up and be our best selves, moving forward. So I think that was with everything, being okay with being okay with the time allotted. So yeah, your turn.
Nice. I'm going to kind of piggyback off of that actually for my second one. So I think for me, where you were saying, time blocking and all of that, and giving yourself grace, I think in my own world, it's creating space. Because I also have two businesses, a full time job, and two kids, and chronic illness that means I only get 13 hours of awake time per day. And so for me, it is limiting things and saying no. That's what I'm really learning with this is if I'm going to succeed at doing what I say I'm going to do, I'm going to have to say I'm doing a lot less. And so I'm still in the throes of like trying to figure out what to cut. Um, but that's definitely been a learning curve throughout this process.
Yeah. Number three for mine is getting really good at balancing work time and off time, family time. So again, just kind of going off my number two, doing with what I can with my time allotted. Also, with family time is family time. I, used to have four jobs, all the craziness in life, just working, 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 Whereas now I, I'm giving my family time, the family time it needs, and not getting distracted with work. So I think 3 and 4 for me tie in together. So really, um, being okay with saying no to things, um, being very protective of my time of like, no, this is when I am, not working. This is when I will resume working. So taking time off for my husband, his birthday, for, things that we plan together, or weekends or things like that. Whereas before, it was very, very difficult because it's like, where can I make this up? How can I make this up here and there? And I think through this change, um, of events that have happened, I've been able to, even more, I guess, intentionally scheduling out my days to where I can stay ahead and be okay with having time off. So, that's where I've just been kind of honing in and um, just, again, doing what I can with the time allotted, not panicking, and just, seeing where the day takes me, to be able to get all the things done so that I can turn everything off and just be fully present in whatever moment. So my birthday is actually coming up in 2 weekends. So I think by the end of next week, yeah, by the end of next week, I will be turning off Wednesday night and resuming back Tuesday. So again, I will, have everything scheduled out, have, move every client up that I need to. I don't have any podcast scheduled. Having everything up to date so that I can resume and not be in panic mode of like, oh my goodness, I need to do this, or friends are visiting me from out of town. So being able to do that. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think the time management thing, that's been a challenge, since my brain injury, really. And so trying to figure that one out is a big deal. So it's awesome to see how you're working through it and kind of pattern myself after that a little bit. So um, I'm trying to think. So we're on number 3.
Yes.
Okay. I loved talking to, I cannot recall her name. She ran a construction company.
Yes. I want to say
Yeah, I was just looking through to see Jamie.
Jamie, episode 23.
Okay. I liked talking to her because I feel like with her, it was all about figuring out, like, your path doesn't have to be linear necessarily. And no matter what challenges you face, um, you can still come out successfully on the other side. And I mean, she faced some pretty big heartbreak and has used that to build herself in other ways. So I think what I'm trying to say is the thing that I really took away from that was that your heartbreak doesn't have to be directly reflected in the way that you grow. There's always different ways that we can grow from things. And sometimes I feel like it should be a direct correlation. And I'm like, why am I not growing in this area? I've struggled with this, I've done this. But that growth can be in other areas as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I sometimes feel that you are probably sometimes trying to be in control of that, but sometimes you just need to step back and look at this beautiful painting you've already created and take it in and soak it in.
My friend Leo told me that the other day. I was driving home from doing that football field, and he was like, "So, what are you doing to celebrate that you're done?" And I was like, "Going to work tomorrow." Like, that's how my life's been for a while now. So I don't know. I'm not very good at celebrating things.
But I mean, also stems from trauma and, things that we've been through. But also to the extent I feel like maybe God brought us together for healing, um, and in hopes that we're gonna heal through this and have growth. Um, but being okay because but for the longest time, I had a hard time celebrating it. Um, but you talk about it all the time through your training that you did, changing our mindset. So instead of, not that you are doing this, but instead of preaching it and talking about it all the time, being and utilizing that for yourself. Not that you're not doing that, but I'm just saying, like, it shows when someone's doing the work and then it shows when somebody's not putting in the work. And so sometimes just taking that moment for taking the words that he said and letting that soak in. And, sometimes it's hearing it from someone, and it almost gives us a sense of permission to be like, oh, okay, I can celebrate this.
Hmm.
And also acknowledge that I have to go back to work tomorrow, but also so does everyone else. Like, acknowledge that you just did something beautiful. You got to post it, you got to share it with the world, and you got payment for it to add to your value, and you added value to
Hmm.
this entire school or whichever it was.
Yeah.
But, you know, not really diminishing it and making it small, just taking it in and being like thankful and grateful for the gift that you have received and you're able to share.
Yeah. I'm pretty good at the gratitude part more than the celebration part. I
And
do
I
start
feel
every day with gratitude, and I think that that's really helpful to staying on track. I have kind of gotten off track with a lot of my routines, but that's something that I start and end every day with gratitude.
but I feel like gratitude and celebration go hand in hand. I don't think that celebration is anyone's meaning of anything. I think it's what it means to you. And so that celebration could be reflecting and being so grateful for, like, everything I just had said. That could be a celebration.
I've never thought of it that way. I like that. That's much easier.
Yeah, because
I
otherwise,
feel,
like, what? I'm supposed to go out and get champagne or go out and have a fancy no. That's just
yeah,
someone's opinion. It could be as simple as just looking, taking it all in, smiling, being so grateful, and that's it. You don't need anything else from anyone.
that feels like much less of a chore. Celebrating sometimes in terms of like trying to figure out a way to celebrate seems like just another chore to add to my list. And I'm like, no, I can't add that right now. So I love that take on it, that your celebration can just be the gratitude and just like being appreciative of what you did. I
Yeah.
love that.
Okay. So number 4, changing office environment. Changing office environment if I'm feeling stuck or unmotivated or uninspired. So, yeah, sometimes I just don't want to, although my office is cute, kind of. I have my dogs and then I have unpacked things that I haven't gotten to or probably won't get to because we're thinking about redoing a lot of things around here. But beside the point, sometimes I just can't do multiple jobs in one room. So I feel like if I have to sit here one more minute, if I have to stare at these 3 screens for one more minute, blah, 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 whatever it is, instead of just sitting here and sulking or whatever, path I want to go down or I don't want to go down on, I'll like just move. So, um, for example, Jordan's dad came down to visit us and they wanted to have dinner with us. And of course, naturally, it's like, oh, but I have this and this and this to do. Like, it's disrupting the whole thing that I have planned. I have so many things and tasks to get done. I just took a deep breath. I rearranged my schedule to where all I had to do was office and editing and stuff. So I could take my laptop, meet them an hour away from where we lived, work on computer time, and then meet them for dinner, and then again drive home. So nothing would push me back in my tasks to do. Or it could be going outside and doing work on my laptop or going, somewhere to a coffee shop, which I haven't done yet actually. Um, but yeah, just changing up the environment and continuing to just show up, like make it, I don't want to say peaceful, but just life is always going to be lifing and happening. So instead of fighting it, is just go with the flow and find something that brings a little bit of joy or a little bit of change or a little bit of something to your day. So,
I love that. I was actually going to talk about how, with the painting process, um, changing my environment has helped tremendously because where I had my studio stuff set up, it really was not working. And so I ended up gutting my studio, which was cluttered with a whole bunch of canvas, and putting the canvas in my bedroom closet so that I have an actual open space to paint. And it makes me feel so much better, and it makes me actually want to paint, which was kind of an issue for a while. So it's nice to be back doing what I love.
yeah. Let's see, number 5. We're moving along quite nicely. Number 5, exercise. Oof. Even though I have always usually put my health first, I crossed out always. I often found, especially at the beginning, that I would have guilt set in if I prioritized my health. That is a non-negotiable, usually for myself. So that I wrote, that's what I teach with my other business. So with training, I help my clients like, no, your health is the most important thing. If you don't have health, you can't really show up well to your job, to your family, to anything for yourself. And so it just shows that we are all human and all struggle with similar things. So at the beginning, going back to the first 2 and 3 points, from what we've learned, is when I felt like learning how to podcast, learning how to do all the things, I was also struggling with balancing my other business with this business, family, like everything was just like so overwhelming. So learning how to balance all of that and then alongside with my health, I felt that I didn't, if I had time to work out for an hour, then that was taking away time from editing for an hour or scheduling another client for an hour or whatever it was. Then I had to remind myself, even me, everyone, that, I can't show up if I'm not showing up for myself. So yourself is the most important thing that you can do. And there should not be any guilt tied to it. No matter, we are human and we may still feel it. But in the end, you will feel better if you put yourself first, then you can be better for someone else, for your job, for your spouse, for your kids, for whatever it is, your dogs.
So I have something similar written further down the list, but as far as that goes, I actually wrote down putting my health as a priority because what was it, a month after starting the podcast that I was hospitalized for 5 days or whatever, and realizing that my sabbatical since COVID from taking care of myself has really caused harm to my body. And so now I'm back in the gym 3 days a week and I'm trying to eat healthy and drink enough water and do all the things. And it's amazing how much better I feel, which lends to everything else that I can or can't do, and actually having a clear mind and all of that. It all plays into each other. And when you find discipline in one area, I think that also carries over into other areas. So I really appreciate you pushing me and reminding me that my health needs to be that priority. because that, yeah, that's definitely something that I have learned through this process is take care of yourself.
Yeah. Number 6, as we said before, just start and make it better as you go. So yeah, I had to, I guess when I was writing this down, I just reflected on how sometimes I just am hard on myself. I'm like, oh, this could be better. Like sending out flyers, promotional flyers for, I guess. Like, why didn't we think of that? Why weren't we doing that at the very beginning? Who cares? We're doing it now. So just reminding myself is, just start and you can always get better as you go. I mean, when you first start doing a push up, you probably can't do it. But if you just keep doing it, you're going to get better at it, just like with everything else. So, yeah, I just show up. And if people will critique in a negative way that's not helpful, I mean, I would just let them keep talking and just walk the other way. Cause I mean, you don't know what we've been through to make this happen. And I would take helpful things like Dr. Zinnia said, hey, we do promotional flyer and this is what it will look like. This is what I do. I'm like, totally helpful, totally useful. Thank you for mentioning it. Can't believe I didn't do that. I want to start doing that now. Um, but, as opposed to like other things that are out of control, like editing, there's so much that can be done because we use a free platform, which is why you see the logo. Because we donate our time to do this. This is not, a paid gig that we do. This is just a passion project. And so, you know, obviously we don't have the means as maybe other podcasters.
Yes.
That we don't have the means as other podcasters may have. So, yeah, doing what we can, just showing up.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's such a valid point. So one of the ways that I'm taking care of myself is I'm taking a 2-hour dance class once a week. And it has been interesting because I do not know how to dance and I'm terrible at it. But it's also really fun. But I'm really, really, really bad. And I'm not used to being really, really, really bad at things. And so it has caused some interesting mindset shifts for me, um, because I don't know. I tell my kids all the time, like, if you're not failing at least once a day, then you're not doing life right. But I haven't been setting that example. I've just been doing the things I know I can do instead of going out there and failing. And that plays into another one that I will talk about later. But I just, yeah, I 100% agree. Just start messy and keep going.
Number 7, one day at a time. Soak it in, good or bad. Kind of ties in. That's all I got, folks.
I love that. Um, soak it. What did you say? Soak it in,
I said one day at a time, soak it in, good or bad.
good or bad. Yeah. I watched a video yesterday of, um, oh, what was her name? Nightbird, I think, or something like that, on America's Got Talent. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that she talks about is accepting the good and the bad in life because we'll have both. And I don't know, I cried. I was watching her video and I bawled my eyes out. But anyway, I love that lesson. I am going to talk about not being afraid of what other people think because something that you've taught me when we first started this, you were pretty terrified to talk about your own personal journey and story. Um, and you've grown so much and you've shared so much through this process. And for me, that is um, my art. I have painted for other people since I started painting. And I've not really shared, besides with people who are part of my Joy Club, I've not really shared any of my own personal art. And these pieces feel far more personal than anything that I've done before. And I've obviously struggled to share them. And so that's something that I am learning through this process is that it's it's okay to be scared and do it anyway.
Let's see. Number 8, faith. God never leaves us. I don't know if that's 30 lessons we have learned. However, I think it's just a constant reminder. So I don't know if that qualifies as in one of our 30, but I don't think it's underrated. I think it's just a reminder to anyone listening that yeah, God never leaves us. And to always remember that we're not in this life for ourselves. We're in this life for the gift that he gave us. So are we utilizing that gift? Are we living the purpose that we have? And it's no one else's. No one else has that. So comparing ourselves to another person who's on a similar path or a path we want to be on, that's not for us. That's not intended for us. So being comfortable with always being uncomfortable is where we need to be. So, taking one task at a time, who knows what doors will open, what doors will close. But I guess we spend so much time, so much energy in focusing on those things that are negative or positive instead of focusing our energy into things that how can we learn from this or how can we grow from this or what does this make us feel in this moment. And then what does that speak to us so that we can show up and shine a light to someone else or be inspiring to someone else or be inspiring to ourselves. Or if it's just a smile, we're having a rough day, can we go out when we go walk the dog and smile at a stranger? Maybe that just made someone's day and that just turned someone's whole day right side up. Whatever it is, I'm reaching, but it's just remembering that to get out of our own way and just enjoy today because each day is a gift that we get. So make the most of it.
I like that reminder. I had a moment on Saturday where I definitely needed to give myself that reminder. I, of all things, forgot my paint and brushes. This is how cluttered my mind has been. Drove all the way to Joplin with no paint and brushes to do a job on Sunday that obviously required paint and brushes. So on Saturday, I had to drive all the way back to Kansas City and all the way back down. And so that whole give yourself grace thing, um, sometimes I get very, very angry at myself because my brain doesn't seem to function properly sometimes. And I mean, we've kind of talked about it a little bit on the podcast. Like, I can go nonverbal if I'm super stressed, or like just weird ways that my brain is like, oh, this is how I'm going to cope right now. But it was nice because I was actually able to reframe that day, and I got to spend 6 hours with my teenager just hanging out, and we had great conversation and listened to music, and I heard all about the video games and books that they were reading, and so it ended up being a really nice day. It wasn't the day that I planned at all because I was going to see all of my Springfield friends, but it was pretty fantastic just having Ajax and me time, because I don't get a whole lot of just one-on-one time with Ajax. I get a lot with Ash, but not a lot with Ajax, and so it was awesome. But learning to reframe and just kind of go with the flow and be like, okay, well, this is what we're doing now. I have 7 hours of driving to do, so let's figure out a way to make it work and enjoy it. And so
That's
that's
exactly where
another
my
benefit.
went. I was thinking, yeah, that sounds like a beautiful opportunity that it was done for you. It's not
Mhm.
something that happened to you. It's just done for you. So why did this happen for you? And it was time with you and your son to bond.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's beautiful that you pivoted and just went with the flow because life is always gonna life.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that was fun. But I love that is your number eight. Is that right?
That was, yeah, number
Yeah.
8.
We're making good time. I feel like. Um, so I think that my number eight would be learning to communicate. I have realized that I tend to be as succinct as possible when I'm communicating with people. And so it can come across very snippy or short, or not even all of the information is there. And so really trying to work on like giving a little bit more detail and making sure that when I communicate, it is fully communicated and not just what I think I'm saying, but making sure that the other person understands what I'm saying. Because communication is not a one-way street. Um, and so that's one thing that I have really learned. I mean, in the time period that we've done the podcast, it hasn't just been through from the podcast, but um, really trying to hone in my communication skills and become more detailed with those.
Number 9, keep sharing the good even when it is so heavy or it feels like no one is listening. So, yeah, I think that fits into the lessons learned. Sometimes I feel we're human, so it's I think, are people listening? Are we doing anything worthwhile? Is this something that we need to do? Did I misread or miss interpret the signs of like call Shannon and like, us getting into this podcast journey? You just have all the what if this isn't it or true or what I'm supposed to be doing? And then you get reminded that, yes, and we don't know where it's going to lead us to, if it's going to lead us to anything, if it's just something that was created to help one person and then someone in California, someone in whatever. And then we just create 100 episodes and help 5 people and change their lives. Maybe they were going to, I don't know, end their life. They heard one episode, all I need is this, or I just need to change this way of thinking, or whatever it may be. And so where I'm going with that is I was, having these thoughts. I'm like, are we doing this? And I was listening to a podcast because I was driving that hour to go have dinner later on, planning my day. And the podcast ended and it just went into our episode. Jen, episode 24, Jen. She had the diagnosis of stage 4 cancer, I do believe, and her episode was so I just got teary-eyed because it was all about love and how even though she was going through something so could be life ending, her mindset was like, this is not happening to me. This is happening for me. So how can I, and people would probably be like, oh my God, I don't want to die. This is the end, blah, blah, blah. Like life and adding more stress and adding more inflammation and adding more things that your body is already in fight or flight. So you're just going to add to getting closer to your death. Instead, she saw life come out of it and saw love come out of it. And she came out on the other side so much more stronger. And it just reminded me that as long as we're, showing up for these people and continuing to share their stories, because storytelling, you and I believe, is so powerful. And we hear it a lot of times how it does help resonate or relate to these stories and know that you're not alone and know that this doesn't define you. You get to choose every single day how you're going to perceive or kind of set the tone for the day. You know what I mean? If that
Yeah,
makes
absolutely. I think, yeah, it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier about, accepting the good and the bad, right? because they're going to be parts of our life. And I try not to use those terms anymore because life will be lifing, as you say. um, but there's not really any good or bad, which is why I have the best worst day. You know, leaving in the back of an ambulance ended up being the best day of my life because it restarted everything and it gave me art and it kept me and my kids safe and gave us a peaceful life full of laughter and fun, and we can tease each other and there's no fear there. And yeah, I don't know. I think that it's so powerful to realize that you don't know when your last day might be. And so for me, learning to really take every day as it comes, that's that's really powerful when I make the choice to do that. And it is a choice. So I want to go to the religion deconstruction. What was her name?
Michaela.
Michaela. Michaela. Okay. Yeah. Um,
Ah,
yeah. So I loved talking to her because I grew up super religious, and I no longer associate, I guess, with the church really. I'll tell people that I'm a Christ follower because I loved the way Christ lived his life, and I do want to be like him. But I don't associate with religion necessarily. So I really enjoyed her talking about how when we deconstruct the things that we've been taught to believe and learn, the things that we actually believe and that we actually value, like our own values, um, that can change our lives. And the authenticity in that will give us a much richer, fuller life than what we would have had if we were trying to stick with other people's standards and beliefs for our entire life, because that feels more like a cage. And so the freedom that comes from authenticity, I think, is something that I still struggle with. I am friends with a lot of people from the church, and I actually went and spoke not too long ago at a Christian business organization, and I talked about religious trauma and how the church hurt me, and that was so scary, and I did not expect the response that I got, which was, we're trying to do better as individuals. And that brought it back to my whole policy, which is individuals taking responsibility will collectively change the world. And so I think my number 9 is that it's okay to deconstruct your beliefs and figure out which ones are actually your own and what values are authentic to you, and to live by those.
Yeah. And number 10 is the last one I have on my list, which actually ties into 9. So it's probably a good one. So, love. That's what I wrote. Love. Love is present and the reoccurring theme in most, if not all, of our episodes. Even though I have tried to live by love, it is a reminder of the power of storytelling and lessons learned and shared along the way, and how it all, God, I can't read my writing, and how it all comes down to love.
I think love is the biggest lesson that any of us can learn. Um, I know for me, I probably have some really weird thoughts on it, because even like in romantic partnerships and stuff, sometimes love is the most powerful force on earth. And I think a lot of people think of love as attachment. Um, and so when you actually start learning to love, sometimes that looks like letting go. Sometimes that looks like doing what's best for the other person, even when it's not necessarily something that's comfortable for you. Sometimes that looks like loving yourself enough, and so there's so many things that we can learn when it comes to love. And when we try to really walk in that, life becomes so much more beautiful. So I like that one. I think for me, my number 10 would be to keep going. There have been some really challenging parts of the past year and a half for me, really, where I wanted to give up. And I thought that maybe none of this was really for me. And I say it all the time. It's like what you said earlier. It's different saying something versus living it. But life is cyclical and everything changes. So if you're in a bad spot right now, don't worry, it won't last. If you're in a good spot right now, appreciate it. It won't last. Um, Life is lifing. And so just to keep going, I think is a huge one for me. Um, that temptation has been with me since I was a little kid to just give it all up. And it's so easy to go back to those neural pathways and just be like, I don't want to do this anymore. And yeah, so just keep going. That's my number 10. So, what has been your favorite part of the podcast?
All the things.
All the things.
Getting to talk to the people and getting to hear. Sometimes I reflect on this. I've always been drawn to storytelling. I love documentaries. I love listening to people's stories. Where have they been? What experience they've had? Like I just love it. And to be able to do this, I don't want to say full time because again, we're donating our time to do this, but to be able to do this and to get to talk to people and hear their stories and how amazing they are and how they're changing people's lives is just been the best. I would ask you the same thing. What has been your favorite?
I think the same thing. Listening to people's stories, learning how connected we all are, and figuring out that we're really never alone. Like I love that we bring connection to people and that we're able to, I don't know, even to connect with people who inspire and encourage us in our own journeys. Um, it's just been amazing to watch how many powerful women are just existing and living their lives and not even realizing the impact that they have, you know? Where do you hope to see the podcast going?
I hope to see this podcast growing to, in some way or another, having more people, seeing more people's lives being changed, or more people rising up from the shadows and saying that it's been helpful. I know that's a little bit more of a selfish thing to want. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess, I don't know.
Selfish is another word I don't believe in. I think that I would love to see the podcast be I, worldwide and for people to be listening because I think stories are so powerful. And when we see people that are aligned with what we're doing, or when we see people who have been through something similar to what we're going through, it gives so much hope and encouragement. And I don't think that it's selfish at all to want our podcast to have a huge reach or to want it to pay our bills or any of that. I think that that is super reasonable. Um, and I think that as humans, we're meant to care for ourselves. And if we don't care for ourselves, we can't care for other people. So I don't really like the term selfish because I think it has a negative connotation and it's an important part of being human. Um, but I I think that between the podcast and the art, I want to take this to where we are hosting women's conferences and weekend getaways and seeing women come together as a community to change the world, where we can really see the impact that we're making on the world around us in, in everything that we do. And I go on ChatGPT. I do a visualization exercise. I think I've told you about it, where I go on ChatGPT and I have it design my dream day. And so I typed in what my dream life is, where I'm an artist and a motivational speaker, and it designs a different dream day every day. So some days I might be getting on a flight to go somewhere, and some days I might be speaking in front of thousands of women. And that has been so fun to just think through, like, oh, this is what my life could be 5 years, 10 years down the road. I don't know when, but that's what I'm working toward. And I think that this could be huge. And I think that in every episode, we're changing the world for the better, just a little bit at a time.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to our 30th episode.
We appreciate you being here with us, and I'm so excited to see where this goes in the future. Thanks, Aracelli.
Thank you. It's Shannon and Aracelli signing off. Peace.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of In the Black. I hope today's story left you feeling inspired and reminded of the incredible strength that lies in each of us. Our guest today has taken her toughest challenges and transformed them into something beautiful, reminding us all that even in the darkest moments, there's always a way to find light in the world.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe and share In the Black with another woman who could use a little encouragement. Together, we're building a community of passion, purpose, and power. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and remember, your story matters. Your choices change things, and being your most authentic self can and will change the world around you.